Yo everyone, what is going on? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I think you should stop tracking your calories altogether. Well, that's not really what I think, but I do believe that a lot of people in general, and probably a lot of you watching this video, really struggle with just coming to terms with calorie tracking. Because on one hand, you know it's a super useful tool to help you lose fat, because fat loss is dictated by calories and being in a calorie deficit. But on the other hand, you might find that it's super restrictive. You might find that it really affects your relationship with food. You might find that when you are tracking your calories, you can't help but get carried away, and every single decision you make when it comes to food is just based on calories and nothing else. And I have 100% been there for sure. I have 100% struggled with this in the past, but over these last few years, I've managed to find a really good balance when it comes to calorie tracking. And that's what I want to share with you today. I want to share with you how I track and how I recommend tracking your calories and your macros when it comes to fat loss. And on top of that, I do, of course, have a couple of brand new recipes. They are quick and easy ones today, which is great, that you can add to your arsenal. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so my first piece of advice is based around the targets that you set yourself when it comes to tracking your calories and macros, because I see so many people getting super specific with this, and as a result, you know, even though tracking your calories and macros can and should be pretty flexible, you are putting yourself in a position where it's just not. Like, how flexible can it be when you have set yourself a super specific carb goal, fat goal, and protein goal that you have to hit every single day, pretty much down to the last gram? And varying degrees of structure and flexibility are going to suit different people, but here's my general recommendation. So we will start with protein, and when it comes to protein, instead of setting yourself a really specific protein target, I recommend setting yourself a minimum target each day. So for example, let's just say you weigh 85 kg and your main goal is to lose fat, but you want to maintain or gain as much muscle as possible in the process. So you set yourself a protein goal of 2 grams of protein per kg of your body weight per day. So that is 170 grams. So instead of saying, okay, I need to hit 170 grams every single day, use that as your minimum goal. So you could hit 172 grams, you could hit 184 grams, you could hit 178 grams. It doesn't matter as long as you are reaching that 170 gram target. Then when it comes to carbs and fats, these need even more flexibility, and for the most part, they should be dictated by your personal food preferences. So for example, if you are a big fan of carbs, then follow a lower fat, higher carb diet. If you are a bigger fan of fats, follow a higher fat, lower carb diet. Because we know that when you are on track with your calories, the specific number of carbs or fats you consume within those calories is not going to make a difference to your results when it comes to fat loss. So low carb, low fat, do whatever you want, or a mix of both. However, the one caveat, or the one thing that I will say about this, is that when you are in a calorie deficit, it's really important that you are getting at least some fat. So by all means, follow a low fat diet if you prefer carbs, but don't follow a minimal to no fat diet. And that is because this will begin to have negative effects in terms of the hormonal balance within your body, in terms of your body actually being able to absorb vital nutrients and more. Fats are really important for this. So I'd always recommend at least 18 to 20% of your total calories for the day come from fat. So for example, if you were consuming 2,000 calories per day, that's about 40 grams of fat or more. And finally, I want to touch on calories. So if you're somebody who really struggles to hit a really specific calorie target, which most people do, then I recommend giving yourself more of a calorie range. So for example, instead of saying that your calorie goal is 2,000 calories per day, you could say that I'll be pretty happy if my calories end up between 2,000 and 2,050 calories most days. And if the top end of this range, so 2,050 calories in this example, is still a pretty decent deficit, then don't overthink it. Just go with it and give yourself that extra bit of freedom. So just to sum it up, calorie range, minimum protein target, minimum fat target, be flexible with your carbs, boom. Oh, and before we go and make some food, I would be really interested to know where people are at with tracking calories, what your relationship is like with tracking calories. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you hate it? Do you find it too restrictive? Do you find yourself setting unrealistic targets that you get discouraged by because you cannot meet them? Yeah, comment below, let me know. Okay, so let's go to my first meal, and I actually had a thought the other day, and that is that I never make low-calorie sandwiches on this channel. I think I've made maybe 1 or 2, and honestly, the main reason is that sandwiches aren't the most filling. So if you're on a lower calorie diet and your main goal of a meal is to feel full and satisfied after it, there probably are better options than sandwiches. But there definitely are ways to make a sandwich more calorie friendly, and if you can do that, then you will have the calories to have something a little bit more filling alongside it. Maybe something high in fiber, like a big portion of veg or some fruit after your sandwich. So yeah, that is the goal here. And just wait until you see what I'm about to make. It is unreal. Okay, so I'm gonna be making a quick and easy pizza sauce, and I'm gonna start by adding 80 grams of tomato passata to a bowl. I'm gonna season with some salt, some garlic, and some mixed herbs as well. Let's give that a good mix. Okay, so here I have 2 slices of 60 calorie bread on an oven tray. I'm going to add my sauce. I'm going to spread my sauce out over each slice. I'm gonna add 25 grams of 50% less fat cheese. I'm gonna add 100 grams of this barbecue pastrami that I got in Aldi. And per 100 grams, there is 130 calories and 25.9 grams of protein. So it is a really good lean protein source. And finally, for the bit of veg, I'm gonna add some onion that I have chopped into little strips. About 20 grams of green jalapenos. Let's fold this baby over into the almighty sandwich that it is. Looks extremely girthy. And then I'm gonna blast it in the oven for about 10 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius. Okay, so pastrami and pizza toasty. This is an absolute game changer. Tastes unreal, has all the constituents, if that's the right word to use, of a low calorie sandwich. So I use low calorie bread, I use a low calorie sauce, I use a lean meat, I use some low calorie cheese. If you really wanted to save on calories, you could skip the cheese, but of course that would take away from the sandwich itself. I use some veg too, of course, and that is low in calories. And when you put all of these things together, that is what makes a low calorie, high protein sandwich. And as I said, you know, you could probably afford to have something alongside this, whether it's some veg, whether it's some fruit after the meal, whatever you want. Oh, and I do want to let you know that there is currently a big sale on the Nutrition Hub. It is currently 25% off. It is 25% off once in a blue moon. So if you have been thinking about purchasing this, then this is your opportunity. And for those of you who do not know what the Nutrition Hub is, it is a place where you get access to all of my recipes, absolutely hundreds at this stage: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, desserts, you name it. And for each recipe, you get a video demonstration, you get a calorie and macro breakdown of each, you get a full list of ingredients, directions, everything. Oh, and if you are not entirely sure of the number of calories you should be consuming each day, protein, fats, and carbs, then in here you get access to my personal calorie and macro calculator, and you will get your own targets based on you and your specific goals. So I will leave the link to the Nutrition Hub in the comment section below. It will be the top comment, and if you use the code nutrition25 at the checkout, you will get 25% off. Okay, secondly, I want to touch on the things that I think you should and shouldn't be tracking, because from working with plenty of clients, I know that some people can go to the absolute extreme with this and track things like spices, like diet fizzy drinks, even though they have like 1 calorie in them. Some people track their creatine, some people track 0 calorie maple syrup, even if you're only using a squirt, and so on. And there are things that do add up over the course of the day if you don't track them, but the things that I just mentioned, they do not fall into that category. So if you are tracking something that contains like 1 or 2 or 3 calories, just stop tracking them. You know, it is not worth your time. It is not going to make any significant difference to your calorie deficit or your fat loss, so just make your life easier. And then I think the one that really falls in the middle when it comes to tracking or not tracking is non-starchy veg. So if you are not a big veg eater, so for example, let's just say you have a bit of lettuce for lunch on a sandwich or something like that, and for dinner you might have a few peppers and onions, then I think you're pretty good not to track. That's not really going to add up to anything significant. But if you're a big fan of volume eating and you like eating just a lot of veg, then you might need to track your veg, or at least roughly track it, because you know, if I'm having a salad for lunch, the veg alone in that salad will probably come to about 80 calories. And let's just say you are in a deficit of 400 calories each day. 80 calories is 20% of 400 calories. So it's just too much to completely disregard. So you could weigh and track your veg just like you do with all of your other foods. Or if you didn't want to do that, if you wanted to save time, you could just roughly track. So for example, let's just say you pretty much have the same lunch every day and you know that the veg in this lunch roughly comes to about 50 calories. Instead of weighing everything out, you could just quick add 50 calories to your tracking app. And even if you are a little bit off here, the likelihood of you being more than 15 or 20 calories off is very, very minimal. So it's not a big deal. So yeah, just to summarize, if you are somebody who tracks absolutely everything, reassess, see what you can probably do without tracking and make those changes going forward. Okay, so my next meal is a snack slash dessert kind of meal. I would personally have this in the evening time if I had a few hundred calories to spare and you know I didn't really want to waste it on the likes of chocolate or crisps or something like that. Instead, I wanted something a little bit more like a meal, a little bit more filling, a little bit higher in protein, but at the same time, something that still feels like a real treat. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is get one medium-sized red apple, make sure that it is nice and clean, and chop it up into little pieces. And then you're gonna get a big mug. This one is courtesy of my bro. He lived in Toronto for 2 years, and this is literally the only thing he brought me back. Worst brother ever. You wanna get your apple pieces in there, sprinkle with some cinnamon, give it a little shake. Then you just want to get a tiny drop of water in there because it's going in the microwave and get it in there for 60 seconds. And as that is microwaving away, you want to add 30 grams of porridge oats to a bowl. Add 20 grams of vanilla whey protein. I use the one from Bulk. 40 grams of vanilla protein yogurt. Then you just want to give that a good mix and it will feel like it's too dry, but trust me, it's not. Just keep mixing. So this is the kind of consistency that you want, nice and firm but not dry. Okay, apple pieces are nice and warm. The smell of cinnamon is unreal. Then I'm going to plop my oat mix on top. Give it a bit of a spread around. Then I'm gonna pop that back in the microwave for 45 seconds. And as that is microwaving away, I'm gonna get to work on a very simple glaze. So 40 grams of fat-free vanilla yogurt, 20 grams of 0-cal maple syrup from Bulk. Give it a mix. Then I am simply going to pour my glaze on top. So if you're a fan of something sweet in the evening or apple-based desserts like an apple crumble, then this is definitely a good shout. It has a decent bit of protein, has a decent bit of fiber too from the apple and the oats, and that will help fill you up. So yeah, give it a go. And the final bit of advice that I wanted to give you when it comes to calorie tracking and fat loss is that it's really important you set your diet up in a way that's actually healthy and that is actually sustainable as well. Otherwise, the chances of you developing a really, really crappy relationship with counting your calories, with food in general, that's gonna be a lot higher. So I've got 3 really good tips to make this a lot easier. Okay, so tip number 1, really basic but really important. Do not go too low with your calorie goal. So what I recommend is starting with a deficit that is about 20% below your maintenance. So for example, if your calorie maintenance is 2,500 calories per day, then 20% of 2,500 is 500 calories. So you would start with a calorie goal of 2,000 calories per day, and if you need to adjust as the weeks and as the months go on, you can do exactly that. But don't start with a really, really low goal. Oh, and everybody will be different here. And you know, some people will actually struggle with 20% below their maintenance. I in fact struggle with 20% below my maintenance because my appetite is so large. So if you do all the calculations and you see that 20% below your maintenance is a calorie goal that you will find really difficult, then start with 15% and go from there. So 15 to 20%. You're good. Okay, so tip number 2 is to make sure that you are striking a good balance between eating mostly healthy foods whilst not being afraid to treat yourself along the way. And a lot of you have probably heard of the 80-20 rule, and this rule says that at least 80% of your calories should come from high quality nutritious sources, and the remaining 20% or so, it's cool for them to come from less healthy sources. But again, make sure you do not get bogged down by this 80-20 rule, because at the end of the day, it should probably just be a guideline. It shouldn't be called a rule, because you know, there are plenty of foods that fall somewhere in the middle of being healthy and not so healthy. So common sense will of course apply here, and just ensure that most days And it doesn't even have to be every day, because realistically, if you were going out on the weekend for a meal out or a few drinks or whatever, that 20% of your calories is probably going to be more like 50 or 60 or 70% of your calories. That is cool. But yeah, just ensure that most days your main meals consist of highly nutritious foods like lean meats, maybe some fruit, maybe some veg, healthy fats, whole grains, etc. And then just leave a little bit of your calories every day for maybe a treat or two. And lastly, I think that allowing yourself one day per week where you go back up to your maintenance calories is an absolute game changer, because if you are, you know, super consistent with your calorie deficit 6 days of the week, going back up to maintenance on one day, it's not going to have a massive effect on your results, on your overall calorie deficit, but what it will do is it will give you that extra bit of flexibility. So if you have plans on the weekends, maybe it is a meal out, a takeaway, a few drinks or whatever, you can go back in up to your maintenance calories. It makes it so much easier to stay on track, and you don't really have to feel guilty about it. You'll still feel 100% in control while enjoying these social occasions, let's just say, or a takeaway in the process. And if you can find a really good balance here, it's just going to help minimize the chances of you having one of those days or those weekends or those full weeks where you were just like, screw this, because, you know, there is no real end in sight. But if you have this, you know, maintenance calories day or refeed day or whatever you want to call it to look forward to on a weekly basis, it will just keep you motivated, it will keep you on track and increase your overall consistency, and your results will reflect exactly that. Alright everyone, I'm going to wrap the video up there. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my tips about tracking calories. I hope you enjoyed the recipes, and if you did, make sure you give the video a big thumbs up. Make sure you comment below and let me know. I'd really appreciate that as always. And if you are not subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button too. And yeah, thank you so much for watching everyone. I hope you are all keeping well, and I will see you in the next video.